You have bloating that won't go away. You have digestive issues that just seem to follow you everywhere. Or maybe you're dealing with stomach pain you can't quite explain. Sound familiar? Everything you need to finally understand gut health is right here. And look, the internet turned this into complete chaos, I know. So what do you say we end that together right now? Here's something that blew my mind when I first learned it. You have more bacterial cells in your gut right now than you have human cells in your entire body. Let that sink in for a second. So here's my question for you. Who's actually in charge? You or them? I'm a scientist and I've spent years studying how the human body works at a molecular level. But honestly, the gut is still one of the most underestimated systems in all of biology. And the internet hasn't helped. It's turned gut health into this overwhelming, fear-driven rabbit hole of elimination diets, probiotic pills, and $60 fermented drinks. So today I'm cutting through all of that. This is Gut Health, clear, complete, no BS. First, what even is the gut? Most people think it's just their stomach, maybe the intestines. But your gut is the entire digestive tract, mouth to colon, about 9 meters long if you stretched it out. That's roughly the length of a city bus. But here's where it gets interesting. Living inside that 9-meter highway are trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, even viruses. We call this community the microbiome. And it's not random chaos in there, it's a complex living ecosystem, like a rainforest inside your body. So what does a healthy gut actually look like? Two things, diversity and balance. You want a wide variety of microbial species, and you want the beneficial ones outnumbering the harmful ones. Simple in theory, surprisingly hard to maintain. Now, and why should you care? Because your gut doesn't just digest food, it talks to your brain constantly. This communication highway is called the gut-brain axis, and it runs through the vagus nerve, a cable that connects your brainstem directly to your abdomen. Your gut produces over 90% of the body's serotonin. Not your brain, your gut. Think about that the next time you feel anxious before a big presentation. Your stomach drops for a biological reason. I'll give you a personal example. A few years ago, I was deep into a research deadline. 3 weeks of takeout, coffee, zero sleep. Around week 2, I started feeling genuinely low. Foggy, unmotivated. I assumed it was stress. But looking back now, with everything I know, my gut microbiome was almost certainly taking a hit, and it was pulling my mood down with it. But here's an interesting twist. It's not a one-way street. Your brain affects your gut too. Stress, anxiety, poor sleep, they all alter microbial composition. The relationship is bidirectional. A stressed brain equals a stressed gut equals a more stressed brain. Here's a fact most people don't know. Approximately 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. Not in your blood, not in your lymph nodes, in your gut. There's a layer of tissue lining the intestinal wall called GALT, gut-associated lymphoid tissue. It's constantly sampling everything that passes through, food particles, bacteria, toxins. It's deciding every second what's a threat and what isn't. When the gut is inflamed or imbalanced, what scientists call dysbiosis, GALT gets confused. It starts overreacting. You see this show up as food sensitivities, skin flare-ups, chronic inflammation, even autoimmune conditions. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Okay, so how do you actually support this system? The single biggest lever is fiber diversity, and most people are doing this completely wrong. Eating the same 8 foods every day looks healthy, feels healthy, but it quietly starves entire species of gut bacteria because different microbes feed on different plant fibers. These are called prebiotics. No variety in, no variety out. When your bacteria do get the fiber they need, they ferment it into something called short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs. These molecules are remarkable. They strengthen the gut lining, reduce inflammation, regulate the immune system, and even support brain function. Research from the American Gut Project, one of the largest microbiome studies ever conducted, found that people who eat 30 or more different plant foods per week have significantly more diverse gut microbiomes than those eating 10 or fewer. 30 plants sounds insane, but it's really just 4 to 5 per day. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, they all count. A handful of mixed nuts alone gets you 4 or 5 species. And here's something most people skip. Fiber only works if you're hydrated. Without water, it doesn't move. It just sits there. So drink your water. Once you're feeding the bacteria you have, the next move is adding more. Fermented foods, kimchi, kefir, plain yogurt, sauerkraut, miso, deliver live bacteria directly into your gut. These are your probiotics. And here's a cultural insight worth knowing. Traditional Korean cuisine has included fermented foods at almost every meal for centuries. A crossover dietary study published in Cell found that participants on a high fermented food diet showed increased microbiome diversity and decreased inflammatory markers. Even after just 10 weeks, they weren't taking supplements, they were just eating real food that humans have eaten for thousands of years. But here's the uncomfortable part. Our modern environment is actively working against our microbiome. Ultra-processed foods don't just lack fiber. They contain emulsifiers and synthetic additives that research shows can damage the mucus layer lining your gut. That layer is where your good bacteria live. Thin that layer and their populations collapse. Then there are antibiotics. Life-saving, absolutely, but they don't discriminate. They eliminate beneficial bacteria alongside harmful ones. Studies show it can take 6 months to 2 years for the microbiome to partially recover after a single course of antibiotics, and it doesn't always grow back the same way. And finally, our sterile indoor lives. We evolved in contact with soil, animals, plants, diverse environmental microbes. That exposure built our immune systems. Now we sanitize everything. And our microbiomes are paying the price. So here's what this all comes down to. Eat more plants. Aim for variety, not perfection. Add 1 fermented food per day. Stay hydrated. And stop being afraid of food. The science doesn't support eliminating entire food groups unless you have a diagnosed reason to. And ask yourself this. When did you last eat something your gut bacteria haven't seen in a while? That's your homework. If this video gave you one thing you didn't know before, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And one last thing, if you smoke or you know someone who does, here's something worth knowing. Smoking doesn't just damage your lungs. It actively disrupts your gut microbiome too. It reduces microbial diversity, weakens the gut lining, and fuels the exact kind of inflammation we've been talking about this whole video. So if you want to understand why quitting smoking is one of the best things you can do, not just for your lungs but for your entire body, I'd really recommend checking out this video. What happens to your body after you stop smoking? From 20 minutes to 15 years. Link is right below. Subscribe if you're into science that actually matters for your life. I'll see you in the next one.